wait for people, because there are people who told me $50 is way too much, I'm never going to spend that. And then there are people who buy my my $6,000 package now. And so it really hit like this breaking point where I understood I can't continue doing this. I'm just hiding from myself. I'm not daring to be myself because I'm afraid of, if I'm being myself, then I'm going to get rejected.
Hi, Wenzes. Welcome to the INFJ Entrepreneurs Podcast. Happy to see you and have you on the show.
Happy to see you too. We haven't seen each other for I don't know how many years now, but it's so good to see you and to hear you and to see what you've been up to. So that's
I think it's been about 2 years, but I've been following your channel for over 5, I think.
I think it's been longer, but yeah, it may have been 2 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I guess the purpose of this episode is to hear about your story. You are mega inspiring creator on YouTube, content creator, INFJ coach. And I just wanted to have you here to ask you about where you started. And I have a couple of pointers that I wanted to cover with you on energy, consistency, just like, why did you choose this type of content creating journey? But let's just get from the beginning and just walk me through from the Wenzes that still works at the corporate job and then you transitioning.
So first off, thank you for having me. And I very rarely do podcasts. I don't know, probably it was years ago. And so really hearing somebody say, oh, this is very inspiring, so on, is not something that I hear very often. So this is like a great reminder. So thank you so much. So for me, everything started, it's been almost 10 years for the channel. And at the time when I was in the corporate world and all of that, it seemed like I was hitting a lot of pointers on, what I should be doing. And it sounded great and everything looked great on paper, but it felt like something is missing. And on top of that, I was always getting into situationships with people that I thought could get me out of my miserable life, so to say. It was like, so I projected so much onto these people, and it was always people who didn't want to be in my life, and that's actually why I did that. And so I had this internal urge of, okay, I have to find my solution through that person. And it really hit like this breaking point where I understood I can't continue doing this. I'm just hiding from myself. I'm not daring to be myself because I'm afraid of, if I'm being myself, then I'm going to get rejected. I'm not lovable. So all of those fears, I understood that they were the ones holding me back, but I also understood I had no other choice. I knew the direction I was going didn't work. And so the moment I, decide, okay, no, I'm going to express everything that I am, then it kind of I still wanted to help people. Before, it was like this typical INFJ thing of, I'm going to adapt myself to another person so I can help them. And so the moment I said I can't adapt anymore, I still had this urge to help. And through that journey, I learned about empaths and everything. And then once I found MBTI and INFJ, it was like, oh, this makes sense for the first time. There is a language to it. I can understand it. And the community at that time was very much about, for me, I'm a snowflake, so I'm very rare, and thankfully there's this INFJ community that so I don't feel alone, but I'm still going to suffer my entire life. And I had understood, for me, that it's not like that. You can really create a life that makes you happy, and the fact that you say, I'm not going to rely on others to like me or accept me, I'm going to make tomorrow better than today. And at that moment, it really felt like this dark cloud, and I just said, I just have to make tomorrow a little bit better than today. And so once I saw that this is making me feel so much better, I had this urge to share it with INFJs. And in the beginning, it wasn't an entrepreneurial quest. It really wasn't, because I was spending money on it. I was spending time on it. There was like this, yeah, maybe one day in the future it could be something that I make money off. But in the beginning was like, I wanted to add this to my life to give my life more fulfillment. And that's how it all started. And that's why I was, able to stay consistent with it, because it was more like, okay, I didn't like myself without it anymore. It was like part of my identity, being somebody who just, expresses herself. And for INFJs, I think this is very important no matter what direction, because we have to find a balance. We're introverts, and having like some kind of impulse to the outside, creating in any kind of way, is very helpful, very healthy in my opinion. And that's how it all started. And then a couple of years in, it was just, yeah, I didn't like my corporate job, and I was like, if not now, when? I wasn't paying off any mortgages. I was single. I was, I think, 32 at that time. So it was like, I had some money saved up, and I was like, yeah, why not? I needed like something exciting to say, like, let's try this out. And then, sort of survived in the beginning, and then I started with coaching, and the channel grew, and so the courses happened, and so it was like an organic path for me then.
Wow. And there was a phase, basically, what you were saying, that you were doing the corporate job, but then you just didn't have the fulfillment, right? And that's how the whole channel started.
Yeah, so there was two aspects of it. Like first, when I started the channel, and I wrote the ebook at this time, and although I was putting so much energy into the side project, I actually applied for a more intensive job, for a higher paying job. So I even increased the stress, or the pressure on that end as well. And for me, it was important on two ends. First off, I wanted to have that security to say, like, I just want to first make sure that I'm financially stable. And I can really push myself, because this is also one of the things in my bootcamp, is we have this one pillar of wealth management that doesn't necessarily has to be combined with our purpose, particularly in the beginning. But I wanted to push myself there. Like I knew in order to feel alive, I wanted to push myself. And so I did that, and I kept it on for a couple of years. But then I understood the higher I was going on that corporate job, the more I was having to become like the person that, or like I had to fulfill roles that just weren't me. The higher I came up, the more obvious it became. And so that's why I understood, okay, I have to pivot. And yeah, and at that time, I didn't have any, I didn't have any proof that it would work. It just was like, if I put every other option away, and I always had a backup plan. So that's why I'm always saying to, INFJs and stuff like this, like first, if you start building something up, have like your job, all of that, make sure that you don't stress of your passion project to bring in money, because otherwise you're probably going to make compromises on your authenticity, and it's not going to fulfill you. And then once I made that jump, I had enough money saved up for my expenses for like a year. So I knew I'm going to try this out for a year. If it didn't work out, I could always get a new job. So the fact that I had this in the back of my mind made it way more relaxing for me. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And basically what you're saying is that approach is for, especially for INFJs, is to have a security, like financial security, and just build from there, versus then jumping into something and like living the anxieties of like, is this going to work? Am I going to be homeless? And, that is so hard to navigate, if you don't have it.
100%. Like this is, a lot of people say, yeah, like go all in and stuff, but particularly for us INFJs who want to have a business, or since you are talking to entrepreneurs, something that also speaks to your soul, not having to make those compromises, or to say I have to like talk in this way or sell these things in order for it to to finance me, but I can actually go about like what makes me feel like I'm adding value, or what makes me feel like this is my authentic voice. So there was, through that time when I was doing my channels, there were a lot of channels who skyrocketed way more than I ever did, because they were really feeding into something that most people wanted to watch. So it was a lot of, there was comedy sketches, there was just general what
Makeup.
INFJs and so all of that, which it's totally fine. It just wasn't my message. And so I never felt the urge to jump on that bandwagon just because it would make me grow faster, because it wouldn't make me grow like in the direction that was me. And so I felt like I understood the more I was being myself, the better my overall life became and the better I felt. And so it was a win-win situation. So for INFJs, definitely my recommendation: don't put that financial pressure on you while you're building your dream, particularly because in the beginning, it's not so much about time investment. Like INFJs, we are not the kind of people generally. Like I know there's some workaholics, but most of us are not push, 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 push. So having something that in the beginning, it takes a little bit like energy to do something for yourself and all of that. So it's not like you don't have enough time if you have a job. You can find the time. Like I always did my stuff on Sunday mornings, for example. And then I had somebody who edited my videos and prepared them. So this was something, for example, that my job was able to finance, and I wasn't doing that, as I said, necessarily as an investment that will have a financial outcome at some point. It was just like, okay, this is my way of giving back. This is what makes my life more full.
So you mentioned that you hired a video editor. What are the things that you are currently outsourcing in your channel, and what are the things that you are still hands-on? I know that creating the content itself, of course, you're doing that part.
But you could, like, there's a lot I outsource, but there's also stuff that I took back in. So I record the videos, so I script them, I record them. I work a lot with AI. Meaning, for example, if I create the texts for my descriptions or for my newsletter, I always optimize it through AI. I had somebody at some point, I think somebody helped me with this, but it didn't really sound really well. So I have from time to time I work with copywriters if I have a new course and I want like copy for the website and stuff like this. For the longest time, I actually edited my videos myself, and then I understood this is something that is so draining to me. It's not my favorite thing to do or what I'm best at. And I always I found people on Fiverr and on all of those platforms. So I work with people internationally, so it's, it doesn't even have to break the bank. And so I have somebody who edits my videos. I have somebody who does a lot of my designs for the thumbnail. So I have the basic concept and they fine tune it. And then I have somebody who just schedules everything and plans everything. But the thing, for example, I had last year a team who did a lot of my shorts. So they looked into all old videos of mine and created text and B-rolls. And that got really expensive. From my point of view, like this was still my biggest expense, and it didn't generate the kind of additional income, so to say. And what I recognize now with a little bit more time effort, I actually can do this myself now because of AI. So many of those tasks can be, this was something where I wasn't like, oh, I'm too proud, like, I already outsourced it. I recognize, no, this is not worth it. And so for the time, I completely stopped, and now I'm picking it back up and I'm doing it myself. And the good thing about it is what I recognize, that because I do it, there's always my flavor in it. So always, like, for the people listening, if you have stuff that is really important, that it has your flavor, you can do this. Like for a lot of people, they say, I always edit my videos myself to this day because I know exactly where to zoom in or what to do. That was something what I was definitely willing to outsource. But there's a lot of stuff, as I said, like, for example, what kind of B-rolls I use for my shorts. I see that it makes a difference that I choose it because my idea gets through.
I love that. By the way, for the YouTube shorts, the Opus.ai can create the clips for you. It's free if you want to try. You said you already using AI, but I've found Opus.ai that basically just put the YouTube video and it creates, I don't know, 10 shorts for you and with captions and everything. So
Yeah,
that's
so there are a
something you can.
couple of programs, and they're really good. So, yeah, I can definitely recommend it. And I know there is this, this conversation of, oh, isn't this something where we should let people, jobs are being taken away
I
of,
don't
but
know.
it's just part of it's just part of the evolution. That's the same thing that happened, at some point when they did the assembly line and then electricity and all of that. So it's just new jobs are going to get created. Like it's generally some things that if you can find in a more efficient way and let's do that. Like that's my approach.
I love that. Let's just go back to the beginnings
Hmm.
and you taking the courage. You said it came from a place of like, I cannot, this is not fulfilling for me. I need to find something that makes me happy. How was your family reacting to that ambitious goal? So you being on YouTube or did you hide it from them? You just did your own thing, or how was the
Yeah, so no,
process?
I told my family right away, and there wasn't like it was just, oh, okay, so it's like a pipe dream, or my family didn't really understand it. But there were two phases, right? The first phase was just like, this is what I'm doing additionally, this is my thing, and so on. And there wasn't that much backlash just because it didn't affect anybody. It was the moment that I said I'm going to quit my job and do this full time. Um, because so many around me, also my mom, she was always like, oh, all about, she wanted to be an entrepreneur her entire life, but she never made that jump. And so she was always encouraging me. But the moment it became a reality, it was like scary. It was scary. There was, particularly, as I said, the closest people in my life. So my mom, my father, and at the beginning, for the ones of you who are in this phase, there's still so many insecurities in yourself. Like you're not really sure, is it going to work out? Did I, what did I get myself into, and so on. And at that moment, don't really talk to people who repeat or emphasize your own fears. So what I learned, like, because they are doing this to protect you, whatever it may be. But if I didn't have a good month and I would share it with my father, for example, it was like, yeah, this is, are you sure this is going to work out? Is this a good thing? And so I learned I'm not going to have those conversations with him. Like, yeah, it might be at some point saying, oh, everything is going great, or I'm not telling him anything. But until I was really secure in myself, I wasn't going to be open to dialogues about generally questioning, is this a good choice or not? You want to be talking to people who've already made it happen, and get their feedback. And if there's nobody around, just don't start a dialogue that will just emphasize your own insecurities, because what you need at that moment is to focus on what is working, what your strengths are. And again, in order to just be able to fall into that, without feeling like, oh, I'm just delusional, that's what I'm saying, always have like that backup plan. A lot of people say you don't need a plan B and so on. I found for INFJs, it's really a good thing to know, okay, I have this backup. So if my thoughts from moment to moment, if there is some doubt, I can say, I don't need to be focusing on this doubt because I know I have a security blanket. So I can really, become delusional and in thinking into only the positive things until I'm not even questioning myself anymore.
Did you have any support? Like you just said, talk to entrepreneurs or people that are,
Not necessarily. I'm part of I don't know what it's called, like Lucky Bee, Money Master. No, it's called like Lucky
it's a
Bee
mastermind?
Bootcamp, I
Or-
think. Yeah, but I've been there for I think 4 years now. So this was just a program about like money mindset for women, and there's a Facebook group. And for the beginning, it really helped me to just see a lot of women wanting the same thing. But I don't have a personal mentor or personal coach. I would like that. Like I think it's a good thing. Particularly if I had like people who were, let's say, on my level or a little bit ahead, and we would have that conversation. I think it would be very beneficial for me, but I just haven't gotten around to make prioritizing that. So most of the time I'm actually surrounded by people who don't have
Any idea?
direction to this, but I have online mentors, as in like, I watch for a long time the videos of this person or then this person, and then um, I listen to a lot of audio guides and audiobooks that are just helpful for me in the moment. So that was what I found like would really work for me. I didn't really necessarily think like need a real life person. So if you don't have one, just listening to audio guides or whatever works for you. Like if you're more visual person, I'm very auditorial, like auditor. I don't know if this is the
I
right word.
think that's the
I
right
pick
word,
up
yeah.
a lot through listening. This is like my main thing, and so that's why I prefer to listen to books, and that has really given me a lot of mentorship, as in, okay, that person's talking to me and I can hold on to that.
Oh wow. Okay. I think you are like a total like lone wolfing this whole thing. You don't have the group, the support. It's just like, I mean, that's some serious self-discipline that you have cultivated, I guess. Walk me through that part. Like, how do we remain consistent for 10 years that you had your channel, like showing up? Because even your posting schedule is pretty, like, I don't know, 3 times a week. I don't know, time. I don't even know. Like,
I
it's,
have like in general, it's like I have two videos a week, and then at good times, I like right now I have like shorts on every other day, and then I have those shorts on the Instagram, TikTok, and so on. So I'm not like, I can really honestly say I'm not a very what would I say? I don't need a lot of discipline. Like I've set my life up so I don't need that much discipline. I was never the most disciplined person. I was never a straight A student. I had good grades, but it always lacked. I always lacked like this extra thing of, oh, you really sit down and you work. I was not a very disciplined student. I had a lot of talent, so I always had like B's and some A's, but I was never the student who really disciplinedly learned until university, where I just didn't have another choice, because then I just failed all my classes if I didn't learn how to learn. But I'm just not generally a person who is very disciplined and works a lot. The thing that I found works for me really well, and also what I found works for INFJs really well, are, for example, the teachings of Atomic Habits. So it's a book. I can recommend it very highly. So it's not that I read the book and then I started applying those things. It was the other way around, but I just found a lot of my stuff there as well. And the main thing is to really start building up an identity around being a person who does these things. And so it starts small. It's always about like, I want to win the day, I want to win the week, I want to win the month. And that means that I'm not setting extraordinary goals. It's more like, what can I do that I wasn't able to do last time? And to always keep in the back of our mind, like as INFJs, but like, generally you have an exponential learning curve. And so just because there's some small progress, if you keep with it, it will get faster. So on the one hand, I had a lot of experience with starting off slower than everybody else, and sticking with it, I was able to push through. And so that gave me the confidence of saying, I don't need to do fast things. I just want to, continue the path and like have it like, improvement of 4% and so on. So looking back at it, it felt already great doing this in the beginning before I had any results. And so I always had more reasons to do it than not to do it. So that's my whole thing. That's why I'm saying, like, don't do anything for a result you're going to get one day, but like becoming a person who shows up, becoming a person who says, I don't know how far I can take my life, but I want to know at the end of the day that I'm doing what I can with what I have right now. Because we all know this feeling of, I should be able to do this, but I'm not doing it, and that feels bad. But if you say, currently I don't have that much energy, this is a lot of mental load and all of that, but that's the thing, I can show up and like a little bit more, that I get myself out of my comfort zone, but it doesn't overwhelm me. So in the beginning, when I started recording my videos on Sundays, it was such a drag to just get ready, like taking a shower, putting on clothes. It was like, so hard. And it's, no problem doing this on Monday when I was going to work, but doing this to show up for yourself without anybody waiting for it. Nobody was expecting anything. If I didn't show up, nobody would have said, "Oh, why didn't you post something?" Like it just, but it was like, I know it. And to
Mhm.
change the mindset from I'm looking for what goals I'm going to reach and who's going to see it and so on, back to, oh, I feel good about myself that I showed up today. And then, as I said, it already starts feeling good in the beginning. And then it gets better and better and better. And then you have way less reasons to, choose to stop.
Especially now that you grew the channel and people are expecting those videos to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, believe it or not, this is not so, it's not, it doesn't really enter my mind. So it's not that I'm saying if I don't post, people are going to be concerned or
Angry.
going to be
Yeah.
waiting. I've really taught my mind to focus
Do it for
on,
yourself.
yes, and it's not that those things don't exist or I wouldn't think about them. It's just before my mind even goes there, it's like I cannot not do this. Like I I I wouldn't be myself. Like simple, like how you wouldn't go to bed without brushing your teeth. And you
Hmm.
definitely wouldn't, like, let's say in the biggest thing and you got drunk and it's like horrible, okay, you didn't brush your teeth one time. But let's say you would never, like, two times after another, not brush your teeth. Like, it just, you couldn't live with yourself. And
It's who you are.
that's the kind of attitude of I'm a person who brushes her teeth every day. So I'm a person who, posts my videos every day, every week, right? So, but very often I was thinking about, okay, I could do 3 videos a week, but I knew this is not something I could sustain in my current with my
Mhm.
current lifestyle. And so 2 is what I can do. If it was one for a while, it was 1 video. So more think about what could I theoretically do for a very long time. Stick to that instead of saying, oh, I could really push a lot for this month and then I would have to,
Mhm.
get back down. Like the more it doesn't really overwhelm you, the more likely it is that it is something that you can, stick with.
Yeah, I love that. For myself as well, I started cultivating, these 60-day habits. I started with yoga every day, meditation every day. There was this spinal exercise that I did every day. And to be honest with you, I went like years and years and years of doing that. And then I learned that I actually had anxiety like in the night. Like, did I do it? Did I do it? I feel like that's kind of what you're saying with brushing your teeth. Like when it
Yes.
really becomes who you are, it's even sometimes you have the anxiety of like, am I doing, did I do it? Like, did I meditate? Like, oh, have I done my exercise? And sometimes those things are just creeping up like, oh, but it's really self-motivation and like becoming a person that is like that.
Yeah, because if you think about it, and I've seen it with also others who are building stuff up, it's never that you don't have enough time. It's never that you don't have enough resources or anything like this, because in the end, most of the time, it doesn't require so much. Like you don't have to do it every day. For example, if you do Instagram posts, you can batch them, right? You can say on Mondays I do 5 for the entire week or whatever. Um, but it's really about like overcoming all those blocks that make it so difficult. And so the more you really practice it, the easier it becomes. It's like really the stone that in the beginning it's like super hard to push, and then it just starts
Gets
its
easy.
life on its own. So for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, who thinks like, oh, this is so hard, I promise you it's not going to stay this hard. And that doesn't mean that we have to become like super workaholics. I see online like people say like I work 12 hours a day. I don't work that much at all. Like particularly now, like it's,
Walk me through your like weeks. Like tell me what you do. I'm
yeah.
very
So
curious.
I don't know if some of your listeners or viewers know this. I have 2 small children, so this is my this is taken over everything. So that means most of the time I wake up 1 or 2 a night, so I don't have a full night of sleep. Then in the morning,
I think that deserves its own episode, like becoming a mom as an
yeah, yeah,
INFJ.
it just changed everything. But it's still something like, the business, the channel, like this is so important to me. Like it gives me like this aspect that I could never find in, motherhood. And it's just like I wouldn't want to give that away. This is not something I need to do. This is like I get to do this. this is just another part of me, like really expressing myself, and it's like really fulfilling on a different level. So then, I get up, let's say at 6, and then until 8:30 they're at home. And then if everything is all right and they're not sick, which happens very often at this age, they're 1 and 3, I bring them to daycare, and they stay there until 4. And so, and during that time, I don't work all day. Like, there's so much of my time that still goes into grocery shopping and, like, taking care of this and this and this. I would say on general, like maybe on average, it's like 2 hours a day I'm working. And then, when I have my boot camps, that's, additionally, which I do on Saturday evenings. But it's not like it's constant. It's constant. Like I read an email, I do this. It's like really intertwined. And if I would really push it in one time, I would say 2 hours. But it's not like, oh, in those 2 hours I focus on the business, and then I don't think about it. It's just constantly part of it. And my mom also, helps me with a lot of stuff. But yeah, so what do? I have a day in which I plan what videos I'm going to do for the next day, for the next week. Then I have one day in which I record the videos, and then I talk to my freelancers. I send the things out. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background, which takes a lot of time that I was able to outsource. And then, there's just additional stuff I do. Like I upgrade some posters. I upgrade some courses. I'm either working on a new project or so. And now what I additionally do, I've been doing this for just a week or two, is like additionally working on shorts. So that is just something I add on. So for me, it was always, I wake up, and when I'm alone, I really plan first off my week, what needs to be done, get done this week. We have a mastermind, my mom and me, where we talk about what do you want to achieve for the entire year, for the quarter, what do you want to achieve until next week. We do this every week. It's been super helpful. And then I plan my day. These are the tasks I have. This is the priority that are most important to me. And then I always start with the thing that is most important to me and, checking them off. But I've learned that it always takes longer than I expect. And so if you would look at my list, it's really, okay, 2 things today, 3 things today. So it's never, it doesn't need to occupy your whole life. And that's why maybe it took like 10 years to get to where I am, but I haven't worked, I haven't had a job in 6 years now. So at this moment, I was already at a point where where I could live off of that. And then, of course, I had a different kind of schedule back then. When the kids were in there, I was working more. But the time that I was working was more of, I had clients and we had calls, and that took more of my time. But it's not, I'm just not the type of person currently. Maybe I'll become somebody that even if I had the time, I would be, working on it 24/7. Maybe it would change if, when the kids get a little bit bigger. But I had to learn to be way more productive once they were born, because I just, as I said, keeping my household together is the biggest challenge. And and again, before that, I was even more relaxed. So maybe now, because I've learned to be this disciplined, because again, I couldn't live with myself if I wasn't able to maintain a certain level of what I expect from me. I have mobilized myself more. So maybe when the task of the kids, slowly get smaller and smaller, I would probably...
You'll have another kid. That's fine.
Yeah, no. I'm done. I'm done. No, for me, I really am looking forward to having more time to spend on my business and so on, because again, this is something that just fulfills me totally. I also want to add more time for fun things. I want to go more into my fashion stuff, just buy things and wear clothes and the hobby stuff that I don't have time, or I don't want to make time for right now. But that's more of what I'm looking forward to have more time on that.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. I did not realize your mom is such a powerhouse. Like I like sitting down with your mom and planning your weeks and months and like year. That's a huge help. I mean, you do have a massive support in that regard.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. Like it was the other way around. So my mom is retired now, but she starts building up her own coaching business. And so there's a lot of this, I remind her of this is what you have to do, and she's also there as an accountability partner. So we have this accountability, and I forgot because we talked about outsourcing. Officially my mom works for me, so she also takes care of a lot of, okay, we have a payment that didn't go through, she talks to that. And my mom is doing a lot in my mom
The
is a
background.
programmer, so there's all the whole technical stuff is stuff she takes care of. So yeah, I do have a lot of support. Otherwise, the times wouldn't make sense, but it was really a slow process, and really building it up gradually, and always making sure I wanted to focus on keeping my costs small and not outsourcing everything, and but still having enough time to really be able to think about new ideas. Because if you're constantly up till here, then it's like I'm again this typical INFJ thing of I'm keeping my head above water, and it always doesn't. Like, you need to be able to test out new things and change things up, and you need a little bit of free air and free time to do that.
So that would have been my next question. Like, how do you keep up with your creative ideas when it comes to content? Because it's been a while that you've been doing this.
Yeah, so it's different. So some, like, in the beginning I had constantly ideas. It just popped up in my mind, and then I just wrote them down. I had like this list of ideas, and now I've gotten to a place where I just focus on the things that worked. It's more so because a lot of the ideas that I came up with were also things that interested me, but sometimes they didn't necessarily, like, people didn't resonate with them and so on. So I was looking for things that worked for me and for others. And now I've created, like, I've uploaded, I think, over 1,000 videos now. There's just a lot of, okay, those videos work, those topics work. And so there's always a combination of, let me
Repurposing that and
repurpose this. So
revisiting that.
I don't even look at the what I said there. I just pick up the title and take my current take on it, because of course it has changed, right? There's experience. I've talked to so many INFJs over the years, so there's always an evolution there. And I also look at what's currently going on in the scene, like what kind of videos are working, what are people interested in. So that's how it all works. But it's not even so much the video ideas. It's just, like, 2 or 3 years ago, I could grow by just doing long form videos, or by doing my kind of long form videos. It just doesn't work right now. So, like, what I tested out is like different kinds of videos, shorter videos, longer videos, and for now, for what works really well now is for new people to find it is through shorts. So it's more about getting new people to find you somehow, and then the content takes care of, like, really building that trust and so on, like all the catalog of videos that people can watch. But I think a lot of people underestimate this, and I did as well, that there has to be, like, a much bigger focus on, like, getting new people to even find you. And the for INFJs particularly, we already have, like, content and, like, depth, right? We're not, it's more like the superficial thing that I also have to work on. Is like, how can I become more approachable, because I tend to go really deep, and once you're in it, it's really, really helpful. But for people who have no connection to it, that is missing. And so this is what I'm working on how to how people can find me, and get that open, or that gate open, and yeah, create
So
that.
what you're saying basically is that sometimes your content was a bit too abstract for people to resonate with, and you have to learn how to kind of not only look at what you like to talk about, but also what people want to hear, and just like finding that, balance between the content, in people finding you, and of course keeping up with the trends as well
Yeah.
was a
So
huge.
I'm still too abstract. Like this is definitely one of my biggest challenges. I yeah, too abstract, not connected enough with let's say the average person. So as I said, the first thing I would really recommend is go what your gut tells you, bring out all your essence, because that gives you the basis, and then you can think about, okay, the flow is open, the gate is open. How can I now sort of find a balance to, because you have to meet people where they are. And if they're not in a place where they can understand your material, it's just a hard match. That being said, I'm still nowhere great at this. Like this is probably my biggest like where I have to learn, and maybe at some point I will get help in this area of what I say, like maybe there are experts who I can get in that can help me with this process, or they can be the ones who maybe create some kind of, they're more good with this other stuff, because it just isn't natural to me. And I've always been like this. Like I couldn't have done a YouTube channel on something, I don't know,
Dumb.
blogging,
Yeah.
um, makeup tutorials. It just, it's not what I do. It's also not what I watch. So that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, what? But as I said, uh, the the bad side of it is that a lot of people don't even get to that, because you always need some kind of entertainment. You always need something like light as well. It can't be all deep and serious. And I've gotten better in that aspect, but still, it's something that I'm working on.
Talking about feedbacks, obviously putting yourself out there for years, I imagine that by now you grew a thick skin of the comments that might have come to your videos. Can you talk to me about those? Are they nice people? Are they not nice? How do you handle that? Just
So it's been a long time where it really had bothered me. That's true, but most of the time, I don't look at comments anymore. And like the last couple of months, I've been looking at comments more so to get inspiration. But it, it's more like when you don't have, it's in the beginning that people have opinions, because with time, and then you have like, okay, I have that many subscribers, so people think like, okay, there's some basis there. But in the beginning, there's a lot of not a lot. It's still like people always think it's so many. It's still the minority. Most people who don't like your stuff just don't watch it. They don't comment on it. That's like the majority of people. So you will never know people who don't like it. Like people who really go out of their way to say something negative on your videos, it's in comparison to everything else rather small. But still, in the beginning, you over focus on this. So what I have learned is to really stop looking at praise and stop looking at negative feedback altogether. So yeah, sometimes you might lose out on constructive criticism. That's true. It might be that somebody tells you something that might really make you better, but I'm willing to pay that price. So I'm willing to pay that price, because I know if I focus on what everybody else is saying, it will derail me to where I want to go, what I want to say. And so, but that of course also means that you are not looking for praise either, because you're not going to see it. If you don't see the negatives, you don't see the praise either. Or like if I now read it, thank you so much, this changed my life, and so on. Like I'm grateful for it. Thank you for sharing that. But it doesn't, like in the beginning, sometimes I read something that doesn't really touch my soul. Like it just doesn't do that, because I'm not connected to that. I'm really focused on, did I show up in a way that makes me proud of what I've done? Have I improved myself? And so on. And then this either resonates with somebody or it doesn't. But it's not going to yeah. And so there's just INFJs, there's so much rejection we've experienced through life that like just go through it. That's all. Like you're not going to die. You're going to be able to handle it. And the more you stick with it, the less you're going to focus on it, the less it's going to affect you. And what I think like people misunderstand before they go through that process is, okay, so I'm going to get thousands of messages. I'm going to read all of them and they're not going to affect me. Yes, they would still affect you if you read all of them. It's just like when you gone through it, you're not going to spend your time reading them. You have better things to do. Like, what can I do to win my day? And so when you've gone through it, you're just not focusing on this. And when you're not focusing on this, you're also not feeding it. So I don't ever comment anything back. I like just doesn't yeah,
Doesn't
don't
affect you.
feed on that at all.
Yeah, I love that. So you're completely self-sourced, whether people say good or bad, you just decide to make sure that you use your own measures on what you like and don't like, and try to grow and improve. So that's internally built. You don't rely on the external, whatever that is happening around you.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
of course theory. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's no way anybody's like completely like this, but that's what I'm leaning towards. And
Hmm.
so it would be naive to think like of me, oh, I'm definitely doing this 100%ly, and it doesn't have any effect on me that people like really like my stuff or they don't like my stuff. But the more I lean into it, the easier everything gets.
That's awesome. And and I understand it as well, just to comment back on your take, because as I'm growing the INFJ entrepreneurs community and just sharing it to Facebook groups as well, I get some nasty comments saying, you know, this is the lowest way to, promote a group, to share it in another group. Like this is the lowest bottom of the barrel way. And I'm like, oh, I thought the cold DMs were worse than this and something like that. It didn't affect me. I had a good laugh, and somehow I got to the point where I don't care what people say. In a sense, like I don't even respond anymore if I see people, especially with no like profile photos, like whatever, comment on my attempts to grow it, because and I do virtual hangouts every month, and the INFJ entrepreneurs who show up to that hangout, they genuinely awesome, and I'm like, they are so cool that for if I can get to more of those people and grow like that community, that is worth any kind of whatever people say. I don't give a f anymore, So for me, it was like that, I really saw the people, chatted with them. We are close, like we check in with each other. Like the accountability for us is that hangout session that we do every month. And it's if I mess up the links, they like message me like, where is the link, it's not working. And all I'm saying is that for me, just having to create like the vision of what I'm going to create was bigger than anything else that was like people were saying. So yeah, I can relate to that. It didn't matter too much what people said
Yeah, and
or
like
didn't.
if if some people sometimes they hear what you say and they say, okay, that's how it is for you, but maybe for me, I it does matter to me. But the point is like to say in the beginning it will hurt. The point is like you can do it anyway. And just
Hmm.
as you mentioned, these are the people I'm doing it for. This is the person that I want to reach. And so the more you focus on this, the less you're focusing on the other things. So like what I always like to do as a like metaphor is like if you don't want to think about the pink elephant, you can't say don't think about the pink elephant. What works is
Hmm.
let's think about the yellow rabbit. So again, if you think about, oh, the people that I'm going to meet in my monthly hangouts, this is the thing that those are the kind of people I'm trying to reach. And so if people have something to say in the process, those are not your people. Like, just let them do
Yeah.
whatever. We're not hurting anybody. You're not doing anything illegal. Like everything else, just and yeah,
Yeah.
please go the path of least resistance. So this is the lowest of. So yeah, exactly. Like why would I spend time on stuff that if this works, why not
Exactly.
use that?
I know. Before I let you go, I want to talk a bit about monetizing, because you did say that the first 4 years you kept your job, and kind of like, because, okay, here's what I see, especially in the INFJ entrepreneurs, a community. There are a lot of people who have like more of a creative work, like coaching, like these type of industries, and they struggle with monetizing and asking for money and charging for money. I just want to get your take on that, because obviously, growing your channel to being self-sustained, you had to work with money and you had to charge money. So how was that process for you? Helping versus actually helping yourself at the same time.
Yeah, so it just became clear I had to, that you don't have another choice. It's that's how it all starts. In the beginning, the thing that will get you, out of this, oh, can I make it? Can I not make it? Is always really focusing on the highest ticket item, so to say. So in the very beginning, where I just wanted to have some practice, I was all about, okay, you can book one session with me. It costs $50. And I just wanted to get the practice out there. And then I had a challenge, and then I challenged myself every 3 months to adjust my prices. And so when you do one-on-one coaching, of course, that's like your biggest selling item. And then you can, if your audience grow and grow, and then you can also add group coaching and so on. And you can also, as you said, like you can have paid masterminds, whatever the thing is that makes most sense to you. But the point is, like, always push yourself. Like, what do you currently feel comfortable with? Not you personally. Like, I just mean, let's say if you say, oh, I can't expect $300 for a session. What would you feel comfortable with? And for me in the beginning, it was really 45 minutes, $50. And now it's like, I don't know, it's I think like my current, like I started doing one-on-one coaching again recently. And so right now I have like 10 sessions for $6,000. And then I have like, boot camp is like $700, like the normal thing. So you see there's a big jump.
Mhm.
And so the point is that the people who are going to pay more money have that money. So people who want to pay this kind of amount, like they see the benefit in what I'm doing, and they also have that money readily available. It's not going to be people who are going to save for 3 years before they can do this. So I think a lot of people have this, this fear of, oh, I'm going to put people into this position of, I'm going to force you to do this. But those kind of people are not going to buy those high, those high ticket value, like, items anyway. But the point is, as I said, like I started with 50, and then it's like, how can I challenge myself in a way that gets me out of my comfort zone, but doesn't overwhelm me? So I really don't remember what it was, because it was like, it's a while ago, but let's say I would have said $100 an hour. Or I started with packages. Like if you can buy one, you have to buy at least 5, and then it's like, I don't know, $400, whatever it may be. So the point was that I knew, oh, there are going to be people who see this and say, oh, no, for this price, I'm not going to do this. Who do you think you are? And to imagine this and say, I can stay with this, like I'm not going to budge until I get comfortable with it. So the point is really to not, because if you say something that you don't feel comfortable with anyway, it's going to stay there. Nobody's going to pick it up either. Like there has to be a match. So that's what I'm saying. What would you currently feel comfortable with, and how can you push yourself a little bit? And then to say, and to really think about, you're not taking anything away from anybody if you keep like you raising your prices, because there are always people who can pay that price. And let's say a person who can pay that price, they wouldn't have worked for you if your 10 package would have cost $600, because it's their energetic exchange. Like they need to invest this kind of money in order to feel the transformation. And then of course there's this question of, okay, so you're not helping all the people who didn't have that money. Like how can you do this? But think about like everything that we do, you as well, like how much we're just giving for free, how much there is, like help, like free material, or like I have like my ebook is $27. Then there's this. So in the beginning, when you have like this thing that keeps you alive, that allows you to do this full time, you actually are creating more opportunities to help people who have less money. You can, like, independent of the fact that you can donate, that you can spend your time, that you can offer things like that also helps people who don't have that money, but to really dare to really push yourself in the pricing sector, because it just like you see more value in what you're giving, right? And you have to define that. You can't wait for people, because there are people who told me $50 is way too much, I'm never going to spend that. And then there are people who buy my my $6,000 package now, and there are other people who have completely different sums. And the people who get that value, for them it's an a fair exchange. And because of that, I can create my lower products. Because of that, I have the time and the money and the energy to create so much free learning material.
Content.
Yeah, so that's my advice. It's just push yourself a little bit, get yourself out of your comfort zone, but definitely say every 3 months I'm raising my prices.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for your time, for all the wisdom that you shared. Where do you see yourself in the future? Do you have any 5 to 10 years plan, aside from, of course, being a mom and keeping up with the good YouTube content?
Yeah, so business wise, I just wanna reach the $1 million mark. That's just more of a, and it really is more of a how do I say it's more of a fun thing. It's more of like
Can
a
I?
sports
It's
person.
can I?
Yeah,
It's more of like a can I do it? Let's see.
yeah. That's more like I want to see. I want to see how far I can take it with this, because there's always this thought in the back of my mind, maybe the INFJ community isn't big enough, but then I recognize, no, I just have to get better. Like there's always room to grow. There's always people who have never heard of me in the INFJ community, and so there's always room to grow. So that's my goal. But as I said, more of a sportly challenge. Like, yeah, I wanna run a marathon, and then just continue sharing my gift and being here with my family and enjoying my free, like my other free time.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for coming. And if you like this episode, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel or follow our podcast, INFJ Entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur yourself, an INFJ, you can totally join our free community, INFJ Entrepreneurs, on Facebook. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.